Hello, everybody. So, firstly, I want to say I apologize for the inconsistent posting schedule. I've been having some technical difficulties with my technology, but I think we figured it out now, so hopefully it will be a little bit more regular. So this is going to be a little bit of a different kind of layout, as you can kind of see. Let me know if you guys like this kind of video. I would be happy to do this. I like talking to myself. So, without further ado, let's get started with why silence matters. Okay, I'm gonna have to find my Google Doc. I probably should have found this earlier. So I have some notes on my phone, so I'm gonna be looking at my phone for a little bit sometimes. Don't even worry about it. Okay. Why is silence important? See, this is a really interesting topic for me because I personally have always kind of thrived in silence. It's never bothered me like it seems to bother other people. And it's not something I really ever thought about much. I never gave much thought to it. I never considered it to be uncomfortable. But that is not the case for, I would say, the majority of people, at least a lot of people that I've encountered in my life. When I kind of learned or realized that most people are uncomfortable with it, I kind of started thinking about it, and I was like, why is that? Why are people so uncomfortable with silence? And maybe it's intuitive to you, but it's something that I wanted to think about a little bit deeper. So today, I'm going to talk about my perspective, as well as, things that other people have told me throughout my life. I'm going to talk about, why I think it makes people uncomfortable. And then we're going to take a more researched approach. I'm going to tell you what science kind of says about silence. Yeah. But first, let's make a drink.
You're married?
Bless you.
Thanks. Oh, are you recording?
Yeah.
Can they hear?
Yeah.
Crazy. I'll watch you
They do now. Okay, I have my drink now. I can't hold both of these at the same time. I have my drink. I made a brown sugar espresso latte thing. ASMR. Back to the point of this video. Okay, first I'm going to start by telling you guys a little bit about me and kind of who I am as a person and what has led me to form the opinions that I have. So yeah, I have always been sort of a quieter person. I lean more towards the introverted side of the spectrum, although that fluctuates. And I've also kind of dealt with social anxiety for most of my life, so I'm not saying this for pity. Nobody cares. I'm kidding. Maybe some people care, but I am just saying this because I want you to understand where I'm coming from, right? Now, my family, oddly enough, has always kind of been comfortable with silence. Like, when we're in the car, we don't really listen to music, which apparently is weird. I don't know what other families do. I think most people do listen to music, but I don't know if that's because we all have a different taste in music, but that's besides the point. We kind of just, drive in silence. Maybe we'll talk to each other, but we don't really listen to music. Let's not be mistaken. My family is extremely loud. If it's not dead silent, it's probably people are yelling. So there's that. So I've always kind of enjoyed the peaceful time. So I enjoy when it's not so tumultuous. Maybe that's why I have a greater appreciation for silence. I don't know, it kind of just brings me peace. I feel safe. I feel like I can, collect myself and all that good stuff. Because of that, I am somebody who has never really had to listen to music all the time or listen to even podcasts all the time. Although I love to. I like music. I like podcasts. I like just putting on a YouTube video while I do something else. But I don't have to. It's like every day I like to have a drink of some sort. I like to have a coffee or I like to have a matcha. But I don't always have to have a coffee every day. So that's kind of how I feel about listening to music. I walk a lot of places without music. I don't have earbuds in. I like to just hear the commotion. I like to hear what's going on. I drive without music. I shower without music. Sometimes I even exercise without music, although that's a lot more rare. I don't like to hear people grunting in the gym personally. If I can avoid doing that, I will. I guess I just don't understand people who have always have to have their earbuds in. They always have to have some music going. Don't you want some time to think? Can you even hear yourself think is what I wonder. To me, it's just I don't have that much music that I like enough to listen to music all the time. But if you do, go you, I guess. I'm not here to judge. The point is, I like to have my time to myself to hear my thoughts and just be present in the moment. Now, of course, there is uncomfortable silence. I will not deny that. There's awkward silence where maybe you just met somebody and you've run out of small talk. And you don't know what else to say. And it's silent. That's awkward. I'm not going to deny that. I don't think there's a single person on this green earth that would deny that that is uncomfortable. But I think this is what a lot of people think of when they think of silence. Something I've noticed is that most people that have a hard time handling silence are kind of very socially dependent people. They tend to have a lot of friends, or they tend to be on a FaceTime call all the time, or they go everywhere with somebody. I feel like for me that's hard to understand because I'm not, I like to be by myself. These kind of people are extremely talkative and they can just fill the silence with anything. They can just talk and talk and talk. And I just think that's kind of amazing. Personally, I think, I genuinely admire these people. I know it may sound sarcastic, but I genuinely admire these people in some ways because how do you have so many things to talk about? I don't know. Maybe I can do that sometimes, but it really depends. I feel like everybody has met the kind of people, and maybe you are one of those people who has to fill the silence. And I am guilty of this too. I've done this too. There are some people who are uncomfortable with even the tiniest bit of silence. In that tiny sliver of silence in a conversation, maybe it's just a pause. If you keep talking just to fill that tiny little pause, number one, you may not give the other person a chance to tell them about themselves or tell you about themselves. They don't have time to be a part of the conversation. Or maybe you'll end up oversharing. And I have witnessed this before, and maybe I've even done it myself. I've noticed that a lot of people end up sharing a lot of personal information just to fill the silence. And I'm wondering if I lost my train of thought. The point is, if you are so uncomfortable with silence, there gets to a point where you might start giving up personal information that you might have otherwise not done. I actually watched this video a while back about some pillars of Buddhism, and I'll link the video down below because I think it's really interesting. I'm not Buddhist, but I just watched it because was intrigued. And one of them that stuck in my brain when I watched it was to not speak meaninglessly, to be intentional about the things that you're saying. And part of me was like, that's so interesting. Why is that a major focus in this religion? Why does it matter so much? Like, maybe it's a good thing to do, sure. But one of the pillars of the religion, I just found it really interesting because I think it's a natural human response to kind of just fill awkward silence, right? Is it really a bad thing to speak meaninglessly or whatever? Maybe it is because you end up oversharing, but what is oversharing? Everybody has different boundaries. Some people may want to hear all the personal information and whatnot, but some people might consider it to be too much. So, I don't know. To me, it's just like, is it not just a personality thing? Like, does it have to be something where it's right or wrong? There are a lot of benefits to being comfortable with silence, such as it means that you can spend more time reflecting, what your opinions are, what your likes and dislikes are, what your observations are. I think it gives you a lot of time to be more introspective and, possibly improve yourself and come to realizations about things that you might have never come to if you didn't allow yourself that time to be present with yourself. I realize that even small moments of silence are sort of a form of meditation, and I feel like, as a society, already know that there are a lot of benefits to meditation. I feel like that's already been shown in a lot of science, whether you like to believe it or not. But to me, in a world where we're always consuming media or what have you, I think it's really nice to just slow down and put the earbuds away, like walk with yourself and slow down and have a conversation with yourself, argue with yourself, criticize yourself, hype yourself up. All of it's good, and all of it helps you to, I don't know, it's all part of, a journey to self-discovery or whatever. But point is, it's healthy. So that's my opinion. Now we're going to go into a more researched opinion. First, before I go into the researched opinion, I wanted to ask ChatGPT why most people are uncomfortable with silence, just for fun. So give me 1 second. Okay. I'm sorry if you can hear the wind. Something crazy is going on outside right now. Okay, so I asked ChatGPT, why are people so uncomfortable with silence? In a medium answer. People are often uncomfortable with silence because it can trigger feelings of uncertainty or anxiety. In social settings, silence can create a sense of awkwardness, as we're typically taught to fill gaps in conversations to maintain connection or avoid tension. There's also a psychological aspect. Silence can cause us to confront our own thoughts, which might bring up discomfort or vulnerability. In cultures that value productivity and constant communication, silence can be perceived as a sign of disengagement or inadequacy. Essentially, silence can challenge our social norms and force us to face internal or external discomfort, which is why many may try to avoid it. I think that's a really good answer, honestly. Guys, I love ChatGPT. Anyways, that's a whole other tangent. Okay, but first, before I get any further, I want to make a disclaimer that I am not a psychologist. Please fact check me. I want this to be a conversation. I want you to take everything that I say with a grain of salt. I don't want you to doubt me or anything, but also give me your thoughts and opinions. I want to know what you think, and I want to know what you agree and disagree with. Okay, so first I'm going to talk a little bit about benefits of silence that are actually backed. So one wellness coach at Cancer Wellness at Piedmont was in an article that said that times of silence and solitude are good for mental clarity. It gives people time to think and ponder and helps them to feel better about certain things that may have upset them in the past. And it's also beneficial for productivity. It allows you to be mindful and bring your best foot forward at whatever you're doing. And I want to actually talk about this just to kind of put it in a little bit more perspective. Imagine you are about to play a game of soccer. I know that you've probably seen, if you've ever been to a soccer game or whatever sport game, anything, usually the players will kind of be a little bit more quiet. Like at first, maybe they'll hype each other up, but like right before the game starts, they're like trying to get in the zone, you know? Like be present and just zone in on the game. They're not talking to anybody. They're locked in, right? Or like before a performance. I personally used to do piano performances, and I would say most of the times that I went up there and I sat on that bench and I just sat there for a second and just like let the nerves kind of calm down and just be present in that moment of silence instead of being like uncomfortable, like, oh my God, like I need to start, like it's so awkward if I just sit here. No, take that second to just collect yourself, and then trust me, you will have a greater sense of confidence going into your performance or whatever you're doing. Silence helps you to make decisions with more ease because you can actually think straight. Who would have thought? That goes in with what I just said. So I'm not going to elaborate on that. But silence also helps you to relax, which can promote physical healing. When I first read this, I was a little bit skeptical because I wouldn't say that every time that I am thinking it's the most relaxing. Sometimes it actually makes my cortisol spike because I am an anxious person sometimes. So my thoughts be racing. And I'm not sure that it would be split enough to where I could say that it would promote healing. Maybe if you're sitting in your bath with some bath salts, maybe that promotes healing. But I'm sure there's some truth to it. I just thought I'd let you guys know. Another article actually talks about kind of what I talked about earlier. A lot of religions actually practice silence in a lot of different ways, whether it's prayer, meditation, or, etc. Religions like Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and many more, I'm sure. But I just thought it's interesting because, like, I myself, I'm not religious. I did grow up in a religious household. And one thing that I carried with me is that kind of like meditation with yourself. Not necessarily prayer, but it's just like being present. It's very helpful. I'm telling you guys. Believe me, trust me, bro. Another thing that's really interesting is that silence kind of serves as its own form of communication sometimes. I don't know if you've ever really gave it much thought, but there are times where words just cannot describe what you're feeling. I don't know if maybe you've comforted somebody who was going through a time of grieving or, any sort of negative emotions, and you couldn't figure out what to say, but just being there and sitting there in silence is the best that you can do. Because sometimes there are no words. There's just a mutual understanding, like, I know what you're feeling, or I sympathize with you. Maybe I don't know exactly, but I sympathize with you. And that silence is just, it's important. I feel like we always think about, what can I say? I don't know what to say right now. Sometimes you don't need to say anything. Sometimes you just have to be there and sit with a person and allow each other to feel what you can't feel with words. Yeah, I just don't think that the human language can accurately encapsulate some human emotions and experiences. Think of cultural and, ritualistic examples that silence holds a lot of weight in. For example, like a moment of silence during a funeral procession, or even from this specific paper that I was reading, silent vigils, sit-ins, and protests have been used throughout history to raise awareness, challenge the status quo, and give voice to marginalized communities. I feel like that goes back to what I was saying. There are just times where words just can't. There are no words. And that's when silence is the loudest. So in this scientific paper that I read, they were measuring physiological markers of how silence affects people. And they measured things like heart rate, blood pressure, hormone levels, brain activity. They kind of defined a few different kinds of silence, but the main two that I'm going to talk about and the main two that they kind of touched on were inner and outer silence. So there's outer silence, which kind of refers to just the absence of environmental sounds. So there's just a lack of auditory stimuli. Maybe you are out in nature where there's out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know what you're doing. Or in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep. That is an example of outer silence. Inner silence is what it sounds like. It's the absence of mental clutter and inner dialogue. It is a state of quietude where you are free from racing thoughts and distractions or mental noise. And this is often associated with things like mindfulness, meditation, and whatever other deep relaxation techniques. So in this paper, they discussed how silence is extremely important in emotional regulation, in social interactions, and even in adaptive physiological responses. And these physiological responses are driven by the autonomous nervous system, which, if you don't know, this is what controls your involuntary processes like breathing and digestion, heart rate, blood pressure. And outer and inner silence both affect this autonomic nervous system. The inner promotes social engagement and reduces physiological stress, although things like familiarity with silence and empathy and, of course, context can affect this. Outer silence can actually trigger alertness and your sympathetic nervous system, which is what controls your fight or flight response. But with training, can be used to promote inner silence. So this is kind of what I found about the benefits of silence. I know I touched on a lot of things. Hopefully you learned something from all of this. I certainly did. I thought it was really interesting. And yeah, I just think being mindful, there's never really a downside to being comfortable with silence. There's never a downside to being present. Okay, so what can you do? I have 3 things that I'm going to leave you with that I hope you think about. You don't have to do them, but just think about it. The first is to reflect. Take a note of whenever silence makes you uncomfortable, and just consider why you feel that way, and wrestle with yourself about it. I don't know if you can hear that out there. The second thing is habit stack. Practice silence while doing things that are good for you, productive things like walking or running or stretching or showering, driving. One, it helps to save time so you don't have to just like sit and meditate. I know not everybody has the patience for that. Maybe you don't have the attention span or focus, and I'm with you, okay? I understand. But there are small ways that you can incorporate this practice into your life. And lastly, spend some time at night before you go to bed just without your phone and just put it away. Number one, there are a lot of other things that science has proven putting away your phone at night is just beneficial for your sleep, a lot of things. It's a different conversation. It's just close your eyes. Lie there and just close your eyes and let yourself think. Just be imaginative. I know that at night, I'm a lot more creative. I'm sure there's been studies done on this. A lot of the biggest artists out there in the past, their sleep schedules were terrible. They were awake at night, and that's why they were so creative. I'm not telling you to do that, but I'm telling you that it does boost creativity. So if you want to get some new ideas, just lie there in silence, and yeah, you might come up with some good ideas. So that is what I want to leave you with. I hope you enjoyed this format of video. I hope that you took something away from it. And let me know if there are any topics that you want me to discuss. Otherwise, I have a big list. So do your thing. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Have a good one. And see you guys next time.